What's the dog's name?
Max. Hey, Janelle. What's wrong with Wolfie? I can hear him barking. Is he okay?
Wolfie's fine, honey. Wolfie's just fine.
Welcome to What's Wrong with Wolfie.
Greetings and welcome to What's Wrong with Wolfie, a retro podcast dedicated to the pop culture of the 80s, 90s and zeros. My name is Jason and I'd like to welcome you to this bonus episode of the podcast where we are joined by Alex and James, the organisers of the upcoming game show Nots VGE, a video game show based in the heart of Nottingham. Guys, welcome to the Wolfie Pod.
Thank you very much for having us. It's great to be here.
You're welcome. It's really exciting to get to talk to you guys about your show and just to try and find out some of your gaming history, just because I heard so much good stuff about the show that you guys did in December of last year, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right, yeah. Yes. Sorry, James, go on. You go for it.
No, yes, sorry, Alex. Yeah, it was, yes. December of last year. It was a very good weekend that we had. We're going back on the road again this July.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing on Twitter quite a lot of posts just saying how much of a good time people had at that show. So exciting for you guys to be doing another one and it coming up so soon, I guess. But any self-respecting organiser of a video game show needs to have a well-rooted history in gaming. So we need to know what yours are. Very interested to find out. Tell us a bit about your gaming history.
Okay, so gaming history. I think, so mine and James is actually very similar. So I'm pretty sure we both started with an Amstrad system. So my parents got offered a 6128, a CPC 6128, and I must have been about 7 or 8, something like that. So we're talking a long time ago, because I'm 36 now, so it's quite a long time ago. And so they bought one home. They bought one from a neighbour, and it came with something like, I don't know, 75 to 100 cassette games. It also had a load of like box disc games as well, and it literally all kind of spurred on from there. And that's actually where one of my favourite games came from, Head Over Heels, which by the way is an amazing game if you haven't played it. Real isometric kind of adventure puzzler type thing. It's really, really good. And yeah, the love for gaming went on from there. Yeah,
it's really interesting, like where a lot of people have come from, like Amstrads or Commodore 64s, that kind of era. Like my kind of gateway to that was on the Spectrum. I never really had a lot with the Commodore or the Amstrad. Actually, it was all the Spectrum. Thanks to my brother, there is something that's so cool about those kind of old games that only we kind of had, wasn't it? Like, you know, where America talks about the big video game crash of the 80s. And we never really kind of experienced that, did we?
Americans always talk about that big crash, and like you said, I don't think it ever really affected us. Don't get me wrong, I was only 3 by the time it got to 1990, but you know, when I speak to people about it, it's as if it never existed, because it didn't really, did it? It didn't affect us.
No, we have a soft spot for the 90s on the podcast, and obviously a lot of big video games in general in the 90s kind of was the decade that it kind of really blew up. And was there a specific console that you particularly loved from the 90s?
Yes, so it was right at the end of the 90s. It's the Dreamcast. So
wow, cool.
Yeah. So everything I do on YouTube now on my channel it's Dreamcast related. It's checking out games that were cancelled and have now seen the light of day. It's new games to the system, you know, because there's quite a big scene now in the sort of Dreamcast homebrew community, let's call it. But yeah, the love of that system, it just seems to be, for me, growing and growing and growing. So, for example, me and James were at OLL in Norfolk in April, and we got to showcase some Dreamcasts there and some Xboxes. James was not pushing, but he was showing off the kind of LAN gaming for Xboxes, because not that many people experience that. But yeah, for me, it's the Dreamcast through and through. It just, the projects I see on it now, and the way that developers now understand the system, they're getting so much out of it. Like there's a developer I work with quite closely called Ian Michael, based in the US, and the stuff he does, it's like the guy's a magician. It really, really is. But yeah, for me, has to be the Dreamcast, hands down.
I'll leave it just there because I've got quite the soft spot for the Dreamcast too.
Yeah.
But we'll bring James into the conversation, and obviously like to hear a bit about your gaming history, James.
Yeah, sure. Like Alex said, very much like himself. I was born in 1983, many years ago, with the same year that Michael Jackson's Thriller album came out. So around that time, pop culture and MTV and all that sort of great stuff was going on. So I was in a household with two brothers, one older, one younger. So everything was shared. So the Amstrad CPC 464, we had the green screen. Basically, you turn the back of the cassette over to see those lovely coloured screenshots, and you wouldn't get those. You'd get the nice washed out green colours. So trying to play a snooker game on a green screen was pretty cool back then. But yeah, so my gaming kind of went from the Amstrad home computer, then we went to the Sega Master System, which was fantastic. It was a Mark I that we had. And then, like I say, everything was shared after that. So when we got the Dreamcast, which was great in the household, we had one controller between three boys playing Sonic Adventure and Ready to Rumble. But it was more of a case of taking turns. So it's the enjoyment of games with your family and friends. So you're passing the controller over to somebody else in the household for them to have a go, for them to do the level. And it was just, that's how, for me, like Alex mentioned at OLL, that's kind of how the online side of things for me really resonates, because I just remember the days of when your friends used to come round and play games on, say, the N64 or the Dreamcast. That's how online for me kind of still feels, because you've got your online friends that you once had when you was in your house, but now they're in their own house and you're kind of still chilling with a headset on talking. So it's so my gaming started with the Amstrad back in the 80s, and then the 90s. Yeah, just moved on from Sega there through, and I skipped out one of the bigger consoles of the time, so the PlayStation. I never experienced anything on the PlayStation 1, so when people say to me, did you ever play any Final Fantasy games? Did you ever play Tomb Raider when it first came out, or Resident Evils? Nope, didn't play any of those back in the day, so I skipped all of those. It's a different sort of upbringing to the gaming world than many.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of skipped the PlayStation 1 too when it came out. I chose a Sega Saturn over the PlayStation. Right. Because I was a Sega boy growing up. Like you, I had the Master System and then the Mega Drive. So it was just a natural evolution to then go to the Saturn and kind of ignore the new boy in town. So it wasn't until much later that I got to experience the PlayStation 1. I mean, I assume now you've kind of gone back and experienced some of the better games on there.
No. For me, we stuck with the Mega Drive. So we was leaving the party. So when everyone was moving over to the Saturn and the PlayStations, we were still getting the Blue Spine Mega Drive games. So the Virtual Fighter 2D experience and the Rise of Robots and all that sort of great stuff, whilst others in the school were getting their PlayStations and Ridge Racers and Wipeouts and all that sort of great stuff. But we stuck with the Mega Drive. So the only PlayStation I've got was the first time playing it was the PS Classic Mini. That was the first time I've experienced a PlayStation. Yeah. So I got to play Metal Gear Solid for the first time. I did play it on the Dreamcast as a Bleem cast. But yeah, all the games on there was really pretty much the first time I got to play them. So when people slammed the PlayStation Mini Classic, I actually really liked it because it was the first time I've experienced these games that everyone's talking about.
Wow, that must have been an experience for you.
It was mind-blowing playing Ridge Racer 3 or 4, whatever it was on there. It was never as good as the arcades, I thought, Ridge Racer games, but
no.
Yeah, that's something different. That's for another day.
Yeah. You just can't replicate that arcade feeling at home, can you? You haven't got the noises of all the other machines around you and such, have you? So,
I mean, you're close for a Dreamcast. You're close.
Yeah, very true. And you've both brought up the Dreamcast, and it is a special console, not just for you guys, but for me as well. I mean, it does hold a special place for many reasons. But what was it about the Dreamcast for you two in particular that kind of made you guys fall in love with it?
Well, for me, talk about arcade. The one of the first games I got when I went. That's right. I got the console, then I went into game, and the first case I saw jumping off the shelf was Crazy Taxi, and I was like, "There it is." That it was those arcadey games that you didn't see on other systems, or you didn't see it that as often as you would with games on the Dreamcast. And yeah, it was Crazy Taxi. I'm trying to think. Games like Incoming. I know that was on the PC as well, but really loved that on the Dreamcast. Although not many people ever talk about Incoming, but that's a really good title. Obviously, Sonic Adventure.
Of course, yeah.
You can't really talk about the Dreamcast without Sonic Adventure. Although, still to this date, I've still never played Sonic Adventure 2. Still.
Haven't you?
No, never touched it. I don't know why. I still don't own it. It feels
was
like
Sonic Adventure that much of a bad experience for you?
No, absolutely not. No. It was a great experience, but I think maybe it was just because I loved it so much that I didn't want to move on from it. I don't know really, but yeah, still to this day, not played it. One day I'll play it, and it will be. And the good thing is, it'll be a whole new experience to me now at this age. So that'll be something I'll certainly be looking forward to doing. But then it's games like Zombie Revenge, very arcadey. Yeah, it's clear. I think if you're a Dreamcast lover, you probably like arcade games, and it's probably the reason a lot of people did go down that route. I know the system does also have games like, your Resident Evils, your Resident Evil 2, 3, Code Veronica, all real solid versions on the system as well. Dino Crisis, fantastic on the system. It offers a lot, and it is a shame the system didn't last as long as it should have, really. But it makes me wonder if that's why the kind of audience that there is for it now appreciate it that much more, because they're seeing it and they're like, wow, this really does have a lot to offer. And I think when we meet new people and we talk about our love for it, hopefully it's getting more people involved into the system. It's just obviously the prices of the games are going up slowly, but most games are for most systems, so
Yeah, like I think the timing wasn't the best for Sega in some ways when they released the Dreamcast, because of and they did get their foot in the door first before Sony got the PlayStation 2 out, but that PlayStation 2 was just a monster, and it just kind of demolished everything in its path, didn't it? I think, unfortunately, people just kind of left the Dreamcast to one side to go and support this beam-off of video gaming, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, we'd be crazy to think that the PlayStation 2 didn't do well. I mean, it was only I think it was a couple years ago. No, it'd be a few years ago now, when they finally finished releasing yearly versions of FIFA. I mean, that proves the longevity of a console right there. Is so many people have had a PS2 to the point where they're still releasing FIFA on it until a few years ago. So
you guys also mentioned a little bit about when you was at Old Gaming. Was it you guys who had like Tomb Raider running on the Dreamcast?
Yes, actually, yeah. So at OLL we had Tomb Raider. It's so it's the PC version running on the Dreamcast. That funny enough was done by the developer I mentioned earlier, Ian Michael. He did that port. Him and there's another guy. I think it could be another developer called Megavolt. Goes under that name. So Megavolt and Ian Michael. Unfortunately, though, they haven't made it public. So I guess I'm kind of lucky, because I guess they've trusted me to not release it to the public, but they've obviously allowed me to show it at events, which is good. So people can get their hands on it. So if we're OLL again next year, which hopefully we will be, it will be there again.
I do remember walking past it and kind of doing a double take when I saw it. I was like, "Oh, Tomb Raider on Dreamcast." As I was walking past, so
it's it's absolutely. I think that's you can see it. So many people walk past it like, what? when the hell did that come out? It's like, well, it never officially did, but it's here now.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
And I think as well you had the elusive Half-Life on there as well, didn't you?
Yes, yeah. So again, actually, so the version had at the event was an even more optimized version. So it loads a lot quicker, because obviously the issue with Half-Life was always that it takes ages to load from scene to scene, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was Ian. He optimizes everything, this guy. So that's like his thing. And he optimized it just so it would run that much better. He's also, I believe, also got mods running and, all that sort of crazy stuff. But yeah, Half-Life, a gem that should have seen the light of day. I mean, James even has one of the guides, don't you, James?
Yes, yeah, I have the strategy guide, because they got everything in place for the release of this. Even in the Half-Life game, you get to see when you're breaking some of those crates, the discs, what would have been released on the shelves, as well as like VMUs and stuff like that. So yes, Alex, I do have the strategy guide in a cabinet. But yeah, like you were saying, OLL last year and this year, when Alex displayed Tomb Raider, that was the most popular game, I think, on Alex's Dreamcast area. It was, people just sat there in awe, seeing how well this run, because it was a PC port, like Alex said, running on the Dreamcast. And likewise with the optimization of Half-Life, because that was the bugbearer, the load times, that was reduced and people were playing through it. I kept turning around and see people playing through Half-Life. It was awesome.
And I think that's like the exciting part, I guess, now in this day where we can go back and optimize these things now and make them run better than they could figure out back then, I guess. And seeing these kind of games run on a Dreamcast is just really cool. And even like the homebrew section, I mean, mostly of old retro consoles have some kind of homebrew scene going on, but the Dreamcast one just seems to be on another plane at the moment. And it's very exciting on that front, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, it also feels like maybe a starting point for a lot of developers. So obviously developers who they want to get into creating games. And I think a lot of them seem to be starting there. I mean, the Game Boy scene, don't get me wrong, is very big for early development. You see that a lot now. But yeah, Dreamcast, very similar. Starting to see a lot of new names to the scene. I mean, for example, you've got people like Alistair Lowe who did Flea. Yes, I know that started as a Nintendo game, a NES game. But obviously that came to Dreamcast. It got ported across. We've got Ross, who's just... there's a game called HarleQuest, which is incredible, that's just successfully smashed its Kickstarter goal. But yeah, you're seeing a lot of new people, and it's not necessarily people who've really done a whole lot of development before that. So maybe it's a lot more accessible to people than I think we realise, because you've got these kind of legacy developers who are still around, and like Ian's, he's optimizing engines for people to then go ahead and use, because he documents it all as he goes. So yeah, it's good to see. It's exciting times for the Dreamcast, I should say.
I remember seeing a few years ago coming out, and I did wonder then whether it would be something that would continue on, but it does seem to have. And like you say, maybe it's a good system for first-time or young developers to test the waters with and see how they get on with it and such. And we kind of reap the benefits when they release their games. And, even at OLL, where they, even at the debug stand, or Wave, wasn't it? They had some of the Wave games out on display, and it's still just so good to see some strong representation from the Dreamcast scene.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because obviously not everyone's just creating new things. We're seeing ports like the incredible port of Postal, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, boggles the mind. I mean, I don't think I could ever do it, but there's some intelligent people out there, and yeah, they're working miracles, let's say.
What's your guys' kind of favourite new Dreamcast game that you've played?
Well, I mean, I don't really delve into any of the homebrew and ports and all those new ones at all. I'm more of the Dreamcast Online guy. So back when the Dreamcast was something special back in the day, I know it's special now, but when it was the fresh new white console that nobody's seen since the Super Nintendo, I was there when the online started. So when it was the adverts showcasing you can play someone in Germany or France, and they were really big on pushing UK Europe battles. So for me, the new Dreamcast games, I don't know really. I mean, things like Intrepid Izzy is awesome. So basically, a lot of the games that Wave have published and pushed out and showcased, you got Shadow Gangs and Intrepid Izzy. They look visually impressive, and if they were released back in the day on the Dreamcast was out there, with comparing against games like, say, what we got, what's that? What is that robot shooting one where, Slave Zero, where comparing against the caliber of games like that, it's just night and day. The games of today's developers and how they're getting the games to run and look, and the frame rates, and how polished they look. It would have helped the Dreamcast back in the day, but that would have been mine. Shadow Gangs and Intrepid Izzy for the two new games that look stunning for the system.
Apart from that, you're too busy playing Phantasy Star Online.
Yeah, I'm too busy playing Quake 3 Arena again, still with a control pad and still beating everybody on their PCs. Yeah.
God, that just took me back, I don't know, 20 years. Wow, that's amazing.
I'd agree with James. I mean, Quake 3 Arena still plays incredibly online. It is such good fun still. Need to jump in that a little bit more, I think.
I guess that's the other side of the Dreamcast scene now, isn't it? It's like how cool it is that they've managed to be able to get the system back online and to be able to play people online through your Dreamcast again in the year 2023. I mean, no one would ever think that would be the case, really, would you?
Well, no. I mean, Dream Pi is one of the methods that people use, which is fantastic. And you can also use the broadband adapter. So there are developers now making games that support the broadband adapter and DreamPi and cross-play. So, like Driving Strikers is a new developed game, which is an online game. So if you like games like Rocket League, Pong and Ice Hockey all mushed into one, that's what that is, Driving Strikers. But then games of today and gamers of today, when you're playing games like Fall Guys, sorry, not Fallout, that's a great game still, but Fall Guys, when people are saying, we can do cross-play with Switch, PlayStation, Xbox users. That was something we did long ago when we was on Quake 3 Arena, playing gamers on Linux and PC and Mac and Dreamcasts. So it's great that the cross-play element is now starting to be born again on these new consoles, because me as an online gamer love the fact that I can sit there and play against somebody on a PC and still go toe-to-toe against them while I'm using a control pad, and they're sat there with their keyboard and mouse on Quake 3 and other games like Phantasy Star Online. You can join GameCube users online, but the online side of the Dreamcast is fantastic. The community is great. They do regular meetups, and I love being part of that online community.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. Actually, really, it makes me feel bad for not getting my Dreamcast sorted out to go online. Because I've got no reason not to. I have no excuses. I guess maybe just being lazy, I guess. But I mean, it's quite easy these days, isn't it?
Well, the thing is now you don't even need an actual Dreamcast to join people online now. So there's emulators such as, say, RetroArch using Flycast that can join people online on their Dreamcasts. And there's also a website called Dreamcast Now that's kind of like an Xbox friends list and PlayStation friends list to show you who's online on what game. So it gives you the reason to jump on that game. So if people are playing Choo Choo Rocket, or if they're setting times on Metropolis Street Racer, you can see where they are, or even Sonic Adventure. Jump on and see where they are, setting those leaderboard times and go against them. But if you did have the console, it's not the easiest way to get online, such as the original Xbox and PlayStation 2. They're all quite difficult to get online now, but once you've done it and you've got round all the hoops and the bells and whistles, it's an incredible feeling to be loading up the 33k modem and waiting for the game to connect and dial, and seeing the arena, say Quake 3 Arena, all 4 of you playing that online, or Fantasy Star Online, going against that dragon for the 15th time on level 1. But yeah, it's such a good feeling. It's totally different to gaming today on any platform. It's just something that just resonates with my youth and great memories.
Yeah, I kind of see that. Like, a lot of, especially like, I guess a lot of modern online games of that ilk of Quake 3 and such are so like bogged down now with loot boxes or, gacha stuff, or trying to get you to buy customizational things, and all about trying to get as much money out of you as possible these days. Whereas back then it was just about the game, wasn't it? And I think that's just something we've lost along the way.
Yeah, I mean, things lost along the way as well. Talking to the gamers. Now you jump in a game, you've not got a headset on, you just sit there quietly playing through the game. Even if it's a cooperative game, you're sat there just going a one-man army. But back in the original Xbox days, you had your headset on and you was working as a team to play these games online. But now that's another thing that's lost in the ether. But yeah, the Dreamcast games as well, online with those, it's just people now use Discord and other voice chat platforms to talk to the community. There's communities on all of those using Discord, and you have the headset on. It just feels like that's how it should have been back in the day, because the Dreamcast didn't have voice chat. You had the keyboard. Only games such as, say, Planet Ring had very limited voice chat for facilities. And yeah, it's just good that we've now got programs to help the online community such as Discord and TeamSpeak.
Because I think we'll just be here all night talking about games, and talk about the real reason that you guys are actually here. Quite interested to find out about how Nots VG got started and why you guys decided to start this venture.
So, Christ, when did it start? It was early last year. It must have been February, March last year. Because basically, me and James we met online. James was doing a live stream around the Evercade handheld system, and I think I've dropped into one of his streams and just left a comment, just basically saying how I enjoyed his stream, and then he invited me to be on as a guest. So that's how we got to know each other. Then it just went from there, really. But then a couple months down the line, because we speak every day on Skype, we're meant to be working. We speak every day, and because we both go to events anyway, we're like, maybe we could do something. The only reason being is, so I'm based in the south of the country, like Bristol area. James is obviously in the Nottingham area, so Nottingham had a very big scene at one point. Bristol has had a small one before, but now there's nothing. So we were kind of just like, why can't we do something here? We know there's a community here for it. People who want to play games, they want to go and buy some games that they can't find elsewhere. They just want to come and listen to some talks. And we were just like, we can do this. And we just kind of, I don't want to say we bumbled our way along, but we listened to feedback from people we're friends with. They were like, yeah, no, go on, give it a shot. All you can do is try. It will either people will be interested, they'll turn up, or they won't. But then, at that point, we'll then know. So we did it. We totally financed it ourselves, and we just went for it. And we had some really, really good feedback. The big thing people kept saying to us after the first event was, we never hear from devs that often, and it's great to hear their stories, which is why a lot of the focus is, let's get some devs. People just want to speak to them and just see them, because a lot of the time people don't even know what they look like anyway, but they just want to sit and hear their stories. But at the same time, let's play some games. At the same time, let's go and purchase a couple little bits and pieces from all of the local traders. That's the other thing we've tried to do. James, you can probably continue on from here about the community element.
Well, that's it, Alex. Yeah, totally agree. I mean, the main focus is, Alex said, was the devs. So we then focused on local developers. So they make games from Nottingham, and then we brought them along. So local groups such as, say, Nintendo Nottingham and Robin Hood Amiga Group. So we're just trying to make a community event, because myself and Alex have been to many conventions, expos, and events over the years. So we know what works, we know what didn't. And so when we tried to make our own, we then realized there are elements that work and some that don't. Keeping it local as well, so giving the opportunity for traders, so local game shops, and based in the Midlands, so it's not just Nottingham, further afield such as Derby, Leicester, Sheffield, and then even if any other traders are wanting to travel, they can do. So it's just like Alex said, Nottingham itself had a vast amount of gaming many years ago. So you had Game City that started in Nottingham, you had local internet cafes, you had the National Video Game Museum that's now left and gone to Sheffield or Birmingham, one of the two. But we just thought the people of Nottingham wanted a gaming event, so we tried at a small local leisure centre. To me, because obviously I'm based here, so I had the opportunity to go to the venue loads of times to make sure the seating plan and the floor plan that we had in our mind would work. And we just thought, look, what does it need? It needs traders, so people to buy things, games for people to play, talks for people to listen to, and a big screen stage for people to watch. So it had all of that. And now at this one, we're planning to do that at a bigger venue, because the limitations at the last venue, we outsold it. We couldn't get any more people in there. We sold out 2 dates in December during the World Cup final, during train strikes, during near a week before Christmas. So the exact day, a week from that day would have been Christmas Day, and we managed to sell out 2 dates of, like, say, however many tickets it was to 400 odd people were going through the door at the weekend. That's a testament to the hard work that myself and Alex did, but also to listen to what people have done before and what people have said will work, and that's why we're trying to give it another go and see if we can do it on a bigger stage.
I mean, like, it must have been quite scary though for you guys, wasn't it? Like, beforehand, like getting the advertising up and such. And was it a worry? Like, will people actually respond to this? Does the people really want this? Will we get people through the doors and such? But it sounds like, like you say, it was a great success and just showed you the hunger that is around Nottingham for video games.
Well, yeah, like anything really, like if you organise a birthday party, you sat there thinking, is anyone going to turn up? It's had the same sort of scariness as that would be. So aside from what I do events anyway, and it's like my side job is event planning. So I kind of know what works and what doesn't to get people there. So with planning, myself and Alex spoke about when should we push out advertisement, what days and times will work. We see the tickets starting to sell. So once we've got the venue hire covered, the rest is just, it's going to be great. There's actually people turning up for something that we've just made up from a conversation. And then for our first event, having developers such as Rare there for the very first time. So games like GoldenEye, Donkey Kong Country, Diddy Kong Racing, those games are what we knew growing up, and they were at our event. You had guys like Simon Phipps from Core Design, who made Tomb Raider, or not made Tomb Raider, but Core Design Studios. Tomb Raider was big around then, so he would have seen that. He made games like Rick Dangerous. So it's like, at the very first event we've done, we've got those names. So Alex, explain what the feeling of that was to have at our first event.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as we got people like Simon, Kev Bayliss, Graham Norgate, Dave Wise, they put on such a good, I don't want to say performance, but just them on stage, you can feel the passion from obviously what they've done for years. And they're like, these guys want to hear what we've got to say. I mean, Simon, he puts on one hell of a talk. I mean, they all did, to be fair. But there was something about Simon, and it was like, yeah, you're so passionate about this. Because I don't think he had done a huge amount of talks up to that point. But when we gave him the stage, I think it was about an hour and a half or something, and he rocked up with his laptop, connected it obviously to the AV equipment, and he was off. There wasn't we didn't have to tell him what to say. It was all he had a presentation ready to go, and he knew what he wanted to talk about, and he just went through basically his whole career. And then after that, they with both of the panels that we had, they then were happy literally just to go to the side of the stage, and loads of people lined up and just spoke to them. They were just taking pictures with them. They might have felt like rock stars. I don't know. I mean, they are to us.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They've done so much for what we all enjoy and love today. That and that's really why, like we keep saying, we go back and we want devs, because we just want people to listen to their stories, because that's what we're all about. Let's hear those stories, because everyone's got a different story. Obviously, we've got Kev back again this year, because he was incredible. He's going to be doing a little bit more of a talk this time. He's also going to be doing something on stage, like a beat the dev type scenario where anyone can come up and have a play against him. We've also got a couple others, hopefully, in the pipeline. We've got a few in the pipeline, but just have to get them to say yes. And to be fair,
That's the problem, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all about scheduling, because it's in the height of summer, so some people might not even be in the country, they might be on holiday. So we've got big plans for the future. We're trying to take it steady, because we don't want to put on a massive event and it doesn't hit to the point where it's hitting profit. What we want is it just to wipe itself clean, in the sense of, as long as it can fund itself, we'll keep doing it. That's really what we want to do. We're not in it to make multi-millions. Trust me. I'm sure it would be nice to do this for a living, but we've both got day jobs. We just want it to self-fund, and we'll keep doing it. Hopefully that's answered that question.
Yeah. It's interesting where, like, you talk strongly about the devs, and I mean, and it's really refreshing to hear that the passion on trying to get these people out to tell their stories, and to tell what it was like to create some of these games that became so special to us as we grew up, I guess. And then, like, I just picked up I've forgotten what they're called now. You probably know what they are, but it was a GoldenEye book that I got from a Kickstarter. They came from America. They do quite a big series of video game books, but inside the book was just a whole story of GoldenEye, and they talked to all the developers and went into all the development of the game and such. And it was really interesting to learn these stories and things. And so for you guys to get these people out and for us to hear these things is just wonderful. And I think that's probably one of the best things about your event.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We love hearing that everyone likes that part of our event, because, like you said, we feel so passionate about it, and we're glad everyone loves it as much as we do. So, yeah, like we said, we want to keep doing it. We'll have to see. We're always cautious, me and James, in everything we do. I don't want to say there's self-doubt, but, we've done it before. Why can't we do it again? So, yeah, that's the plan. And, we've got a dream list. Don't get me wrong. I can't say what that dream list is. But there are certain developers that we would love, but you got to remember, a lot of these, they're not all UK based. So
yeah, so I guess you have to pay for travel sometimes, correct. And hotel fees and that kind of stuff.
And unfortunately, hotels and everything, they're not cheap. So,
no.
So
not even travel lodges these days. What's going on with that?
Well, exactly. I'm in a Premier Inn today. And for example, Premier Inns used to be like, 30, 40 quid? They're like 100 quid plus a night now. And it's ludicrous, really, when you think about it. But unfortunately, that element does come into it. And, like I said, if it means we got to take a bit of a knock to get certain people here, we're happy to do it, as long as we can afford to do it. So that's we've got big plans, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and like you mentioned about the first show that you did in December, and it sounded like it went really well for you guys. But I mean, was there what kind of like lessons did you walk out from that experience?
The thing with the first event, the first weekend, so we've already established that this next event is a one-day event, because yes, many of the big events are over a weekend, but it tired us out the second day. So we've decided this time to stick with a Saturday, one day only, and just try and max out what we can do on that one day. But the learns we took from the last event were it needs to be a bigger venue, and it needs to be in the city centre. So we've ticked those already. So this next event is in the city centre of Nottingham, and it is just a stone's throw away from any restaurants, travel, and everything that people can want to go to an event. It's right on the doorstep. So you've got transport links, accommodation, and restaurants right next to the venue, which is fine. Some of the traders gave some feedback to us because they didn't expect the amount of people, or not the amount of people that they had. So they were expecting it to be like an EGX or a Play Expo. It's not that. It was our first try, and we got a large amount of people through the door, and most of the traders made more profit than they did at our event than many of the big events. So that's just saying something to them. So, and our table hires are very reasonable compared to others. A lot of the learns were just cosmetics side of things. Like, we're still focusing on making it an enjoyable day for the family and the people that are attending. So with it being easy to get to, and with having everything under one roof. So that's why we've got refreshments. We've got a bar there that's open all day. We've got food inside the establishment this time. So all the things that people don't like at other events, and mention it when you hear people's comments. Yeah, it's just a small amount of things that we just have taken on board, and we've run with it on this event. So mainly it was just the size of the venue that people were shocked with, because we made it, nobody's done an event like this at that sort of venue. So people were shocked how much we got into this venue, and how well it looked for our very first try at it. So if that was any feedback, we did well for what we had with the toolkit that we had.
It's great how you start small, because like Alex was just saying there as well, I used to help at a local science fiction convention when I was younger that was close to my home. And that's how they started. They started in the local sports hall, and they used to just manage to bring in like Star Trek and Star Wars actors. And it was really weird seeing these people sitting in the local sports hall with a basketball hoop above their heads and things. But these guys eventually moved on and grew, and now they're the people who do the MCM London Comic Con or whatever it is and such. So, I mean, it always starts from small, and you just never know where you're going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And, hey, if we can get to that size one day, hey, that,
you never know.
Yeah, exactly. That would be incredible. But like you said, we're happy doing what we do. We enjoy it, and that's the thing. Is if we didn't enjoy it, we wouldn't necessarily do it, because we love doing it and we love the type of thing we're doing. Then we want to smash it going forward. We really do. We've got such big ambitions. We potentially, James would agree, we've already outgrown this next venue. We've still got more traders coming to us. We've got bigger ideas, but we've got to finance it. So it's not a cheap thing to do, because the next jump is a big jump. So it's not a couple £100. It's a few thousand plus. So it's a big risk. But if we can see the growth and the people want it, then we'll do it. But yeah, we're just very cautious, because we don't want it to fail, because we've put so much time into it that we want everyone to keep enjoying it. And, if everyone loves it still, then we'll keep doing it. But we just need to make sure we can finance it.
Like you say, the bigger you go, the more money it costs, and everything costs more money these days. It's annoying.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing we've tried to do so far is, like James was saying about like what we're charging traders and things like that. They're not laughing at us, but they're snapping our hand off at the sort of price we're giving them. And it's the same with the ticket prices. The ticket prices haven't changed from the first to the second event, but we don't want to be charging people more. So it's trying to work out different revenue streams to allow us to grow, because like you said, it's not cheap, and it doesn't seem to be getting any cheaper anytime soon. So anything we can do that can be a revenue stream. Even get a couple sponsors. I mean, we've potentially got one if we do another event. We're not going to, we can't. I wouldn't want to give an exclusive right now and say we're going to do another one, but we want to, obviously, like we keep saying. But
sure.
It's sponsors that we would potentially need, so that we don't then have to pass on or up the cost for the people coming in. So yeah, there's a lot of different avenues to go down, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, totally understand that. I mean, everyone's belts are getting tighter, so that's why we don't want to put the fees up for even the traders as well at times, because they, a lot of the time, they're independent people that are either doing their Etsy pages or their eBay pages or their Facebook pages. They're not multinational businesses. They've all got fees that have to go up just like everyone. So we just try and keep it so it's, at the moment, we just try and keep it so it's in the ground where anyone can kind of afford it. It's like less than a £5 for a child ticket and things like that. It's you can go to Alton Towers and it costs you £55+ pound.
Oh God, yeah, I know, right?
Then they're making you stay at the Alton Towers Hotel and all this sort of stuff. So we've got to think, if people want to spend their summer with us on this event, that's why we want it to be an enjoyable day. So 11 till 5, you get to play games, you get to talk to people that made games, you get to watch cool things happening on stage. It's a full-on day, and you get your money's worth because you have a wristband, so you can go in and out as you please. So if you want to get a break, you want to go and have a walk around, or if you've got something to do in the afternoon but want to come back later on, it's a ticket of an event that we all want you to be part of, and that's why we do this. Alex mentioned we love doing this, and we want people to enjoy the day with us.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you're on the right road to hitting the right notes to hopefully get that growth going. But like with this year's event in July, it's 2 months away now, so it's creeping up quickly for you guys, isn't it? What guests have you got confirmed right now?
Yeah, so we're bringing back Kev Bayliss, like you said, from Rare, because he put on a great talk last year. And the thing is, because the event was across 2 days, not everyone got to see him. He's going to be doing a slightly different talk this time, so it's not exactly the same, which is great. We've kind of also gone down the route of a couple YouTube-type personalities, just because people like to see them as well. I know they're not developers, but they have personalities. They've got stories about their growth into YouTube or Twitch. So we got the Gebs coming. The problem is we can't announce too much at the moment because we still got so many in the pipeline that they just have to confirm. We're so close to one of them, so close, but we could have a message right now and they've confirmed. But yeah, at the moment it's Kev, it's the Gebs, it's who else have we got, James? I'm trying to think now.
So we got the Retro Game Revival. So as you mentioned, the YouTube personalities. So they'll be doing some talks on stage. And we also have, we announced very recently that 16 Bits and Bobs, who's a YouTuber as well, he does a Street Fighter tournament, so he'll be doing that. We're just trying to take a lot of the community that like what we've done on our channels as well, to give them a platform as well to showcase what they do. So that's why we brought the Retro Game Revival guys in, because they interview pretty much everyone on their channel. They've interviewed Dominic Diamond. They've interviewed so many great guests. I don't want to name all of them because some of them might be attending as. But but it's they know how to talk to these people. We leave that to them.
Yeah, we were guests on there once.
Yeah, even established people like yourselves were on there. So it's we just. There's so much that we would love to say to everyone. We've not even showcased the floor plan yet, which looks absolutely incredible. Yeah, that's taken months and months of working, but we just want everything to be right. And if it takes us ages to do, then it takes us ages. Just like Sega says, just change Sega around the other way, and it means ages. That's how long it's going to take us to get things right for everyone. So.
Yeah, and have you got any competitions running? I think you mentioned, was there a Street Fighter?
Yes, so Street Fighter 2, the Championship Edition, I think it is, or Hyper Fighting. But they did a little tournament at OLL at Norfolk, and they just, because we were situated right next to them, they were like, "Can we be at your event?" And we're like, can you not bring those speakers? I'm joking. No, no. We said, well, how does the stage sound? You know, instead of just over the road from us, how does it sound being on the big stage? And they were like, yeah, we'd love to. And once again, Nintendo Nottingham are bringing back their Mario Kart tournament, so which should be good. And I don't think we've announced anything else tournament-wise. But
actually, hold on. Remember, in regards to prizes, also remember we've partnered with the Derby Computer Museum. So
yes,
they're going to be part of the event. They're going to have a nice big area with some retro systems, not just consoles, microcomputers as well. And basically, with anyone who purchases a ticket for our event, you get entered into a competition where you can win a couple adult tickets to the computer museum, the Derby Computer Museum. So, you know, you're entered into that automatically just by having a ticket to our event. That, you know, we've also got a charity partner called, I've totally forgotten their name. That's terrible. Come on, James.
Get Well Gamers.
Get Well Gamers. That's right. They're doing a raffle. I think it's something like £1 a ticket. So last year they gave away a boxed PS1 with a stack of games. As well as that, they raffled off an Xbox One. I can't remember which one it was, but it was an Xbox One. Again, you know, someone else won that as well. There are one of the other people or groups we haven't announced yet will also be running competitions too. But obviously we can't unveil that yet either. So like I said, there's still a lot going on for this. You know, I know, like you said, we're only a couple months or so off from the actual event, but there's still a lot of work going on to get it to for people to get as excited as we are about it.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I guess you guys will be right up to the wire, I guess, won't you? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you know, the thing is, in regards to like ticket sales and things like that, tickets, every event, the tickets don't really sell until about a month before. So don't get me wrong, though, it's outdone our expectations already. We're already ahead of where we were when we first started in the first month or so of ticket sales. You know, we're looking at graphs. You know, we're getting scientific with it now, and we're already seeing the trends are great straight off the bat. So, you know, come a month's time, you know, when we got a month left or so, we should see it fly. Yeah, I'm so excited for it now. I just want it to happen now.
And you know, it's going to go by like a blur, isn't it? You know, it's like the day you get married or whatever. The day just goes by so fast. It's just like a blur, and you're like one blink and it's done, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
But hopefully there's lots of fun on the way. I mean, it sounds like a packed day, and it sounds like a great day. It sounds really good fun. So I think you guys have definitely got a great show on your hands. And can you just like reiterate like when it is and where it is for the listeners?
Yeah, sure. So Saturday, the 22nd of July. So it's 11 a.m. till 5 p.m. It's in the Nottingham City Centre, so in the Belgrave Rooms. So yeah, it's a stone's throw away from the very heart of Nottingham, so near the Theatre Royal, if you know Nottingham well. If you don't, then if you just type in the name of the venue, you'll find it. And we've got something on offer this year which we didn't have last year, family tickets. So reduced family tickets, a lot cheaper than a couple of the other events that have been and gone or upcoming. We just want people to be there, whether it's say 2 adults, 1 adult, and all that sort of stuff. We just want you to be there to enjoy it. So the rundown is, that's the day in the heart of Nottingham. Yeah, it's going to be fun. So if you think all the good things that you always want in one place, this is what it's going to be.
On the podcast, guys, we do like to get to know, I guess, a little bit more and kind of find out some other things that you guys kind of like and enjoy. So this part of the podcast, that's what we're going to do. What kind of films and TV shows did you guys like to watch back in the day? I mean, is there anything that you hold dear to your hearts?
Sure, yes. So growing up in the early 80s to late 80s, lots of films, and if you just think 80s films, you know, you're going to think things like Gremlins, Ghostbusters, and all that sort of great stuff, Jurassic Park in the early 90s. But for me, if I was going to think of my favourite film of all time, it's going to be a bit obscure for many people. It's actually Rocky 4. And
even I didn't know that.
yeah, a lot of reasons why I've chose this is because a number of things. It's got an amazing soundtrack. So you think of the training montages and the final fight of it. But another thing as well, I had the Sega Master System growing up. So Rocky was on the Master System. That came packed in with my Master System console. Playing that and then watching the film, it's just kind of. And then I had the figures of like wrestlers back in the day, so WWF Hasbro figures. So Rocky 4 was and still is my all-time favourite film because it just has everything. It's got everything I wanted. Both of the actors at the time were at their prime physically as well, so it just looked like a video game that you was watching because none of the punches actually hit them. But yeah, it just, for me, it's that. And TV series is growing up. It has to be something like, oh gosh, Boy Meets World. You know, you got the cartoons like just before you leave for school, like Rugrats and Pokemon and Hey Arnold. So just all those sort of cool things back from my childhood. But yeah, movie, Rocky 4, yeah, all those great stuff like Boy Meets World.
Now, before we started recording, I came to the admission that I'd never played a Max Payne game before. And I have to say the same thing about Rocky films, in that I've never watched a Rocky film either.
Okay.
What am I missing?
Well, if you wanted, for me personally, I would skip 1, 2, and 3 and just go for 4 because, I mean, you don't have to. 1 is incredible. Rocky 1 is incredible. It shows you the story between how Rocky and Adrian met and how that relationship grew, Adrian and his partner. But then you could just go to one of the later films, and that's Rocky Balboa. So that shows Rocky as a retired boxer, then manager, and things like that. So you don't have to watch all of them. I mean, Creed is now a separate film franchise because Stallone wasn't in the last Creed film. Apologies, spoilers there if you're waiting to see Creed 3. But you're missing something which has got a lot of heart. So you watch this and think, this is a boxer. He's an underdog. You know, things aren't going his way. And he gets the break, and he's going up against an unbeatable force in Russia, which is Ivan Drago, and it's all about if training hard and working hard can defeat a machine. I won't tell you the outcome, so just watch Rocky 4 when you get a chance.
So obviously, yeah, I grew up watching the Arnie films, the Stallone films, all the classic sort of muscly action guy type movies, but my favourite franchise, let's say, although I don't really like to use the term franchise necessarily too much, is the Alien movies. You know, Alien 1, you know, Aliens, Alien 3. Actually, to be fair, Alien 3 is the one I love the most. Most people wouldn't agree with that. For me, it was just...
Well, you love it because it's so bad.
Well, yeah, I think that's it. It was kind of... It was done... It was rushed, almost. You know, they changed directors and ideas and all that so many times. Then when they landed on it, for me, it feels like Alien. Well, it kind of just feels like Alien again because it's just one alien. But you know, they got no weaponry. You know, and they're doing anything they can with nothing, if that makes sense. And it felt so claustrophobic. You know, there's the assembly cut that we can all see now, which is incredible. You know, don't get me wrong, Resurrection isn't great, and then some of the others after that, not great. But, and it's good to see that now, although I don't know how Disney will necessarily handle it, you know, we've got the series coming that's shooting towards the end of this year. We've got the film that's already being shot, which was obviously being directed by the guy, I can't remember his name now, but the guy who done the first Evil Dead remake. I just hope they lovingly do something great with it. It needs to be, you know, it has to be slightly different. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like the stories need to be self-contained a little bit. But Yeah, so it's got to be the Alien movies. The other thing you might obviously love to hear with a name like your podcast is the Terminator movies. So
Beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. So Terminator 1 and 2, I even like 3. Salvation has bits that I kind of like. Genesis, no, we don't really want to talk about that one. And obviously, what's the last one called? Dawn of something or whatever it is.
I don't know, I've lost track.
Exactly,
Lost track of them all.
But after 1 and 2, yes, they're not necessarily as good. But 1 and 2, such great films. It's like 1 where it uses the kind of stop motion kind of look and feel, let's say, towards the end of the movie when you've got the Terminator chasing them into the factory. Those films. Just, I probably shouldn't have been watching them. It's like with Alien 3. My parents had it, they recorded it off of ITV or whatever it was at the time, onto a VHS. And that's how I saw Alien 3, and I was 8 or something like that. So I was really young, but they allowed me to watch it.
You was watching the probably very heavily cut version too, so that's
Correct.
Probably why in some ways, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess I didn't see too much of the gore, but it got my fascination into what I now love just from a couple VHSs. It's the same with RoboCop. Obviously, you've covered that recently. What a masterpiece RoboCop is. Even RoboCop 2 to me is a good film, but RoboCop 1 smashed it. It's an incredible film, but it's all of those movies, but predominantly Alien. Oh, Predator. There's another one. All of those type of movies. That's where my love lies, and I want people to, people who haven't necessarily seen any of them, go and check them all out because they're great and you won't regret it. But talking about TV, because I was obviously and still am pretty nerdy. It was, it's similar to what James was talking about, but then I also watched a series like Red Dwarf.
Good choice.
Yeah, there you go. See, Red Dwarf. It's incredible. If you haven't watched Red Dwarf, you need to do it. You won't regret it. It brings together 4 different characters that they feel like they shouldn't be together in a series, but they all just kind of bounce off each other, and it just works. It's in deep space. It's when it first came out, it's kind of like, well, most people I think didn't really understand what it was trying to be. But then when they realised it's a comedy, it's not trying to be Star Trek or like a knockoff Star Trek, then people loved it, and people still love it today. Maybe we'll get another series at some point. Who knows? I would love to see another one, because I thought the more recent series have actually been all right. They've been pretty funny, but
yeah. The last couple were really good. They really felt like old school Red Dwarf again.
Yeah, exactly. And if they can keep that magic going, then let's have more of it, because everyone loves it. So, well, I don't know about everyone loves it, but a lot of us do. So, like I said, if they can keep that magic, then yeah, let's have more of it.
Especially as they're, getting into their older years, they can bring a lot of like old man jokes into the show.
Exactly right. Yeah, absolutely.
Red Dwarf is a special show, just because, especially I think the BBC were like, well, science fiction and comedy do not go together. It will not work, and the half the magic of it was just proving them wrong, to show that science fiction and comedy do work well together and it can be done well. And with the right people, thankfully, who they did with Doug Naylor and Grant, they pulled it off, and it was great show, and it's still a show to show the world what us British people can produce. And did you ever see the American pilots for Red Dwarf?
Yes, I did. Yes. Although, yeah, not because if am I right in saying, if I remember correctly, were they not basically the same but with different actors? Was it not scene for scene almost? Am I right in saying that?
I think there was one, because I think there was 2 pilots they did, didn't they?
But either way, it didn't work, did it? Clearly, it didn't take off.
No, because it wasn't British.
True. Yeah. True. It's the British humour that makes it what it is. It's like all of these classic British comedies, like Your Only Fools and Horses, Your Fawlty Towers. It's kind of a bit of slapstick, our kind of dry humour. It works with us, whereas the American audience don't necessarily get it. I mean, there's still a lot of fans over there now. Now they've kind of, anyone can watch anything from any country as we've gone on. But yeah, like you said, when they tried to mimic it, it didn't work, did it?
if you're saying something like that, I quite like the American Office better than the UK Office. That's just, the actors they had for the American Office is, I quite like that. It's quite funnier. But yeah, I totally understand that, Alex, as well.
I think The Office was something different though, wasn't it? I think like what the show was kind of travelled over to other countries well, didn't it? Whereas Red Dwarf needed that kind of Britishness for it to work properly. The Office could you could pull that off, and it showed in the American one for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I can't let you guys go without asking, I guess, the age-old question of what your favourite video game is. And, I appreciate it is a hard question to answer, so I guess I'll rephrase it as like one of your favourite video games of all time, I think would be a fairer question to ask.
Yeah, so I think it's probably a very similar answer to a lot of people. It's got to be Doom. I mean, what Doom did for FPSs, you can still feel it now because people are now trying to replicate that style, with your kind of retro inspired FPSs. Because the games got very real when it came to things like Battlefield, your Call of Duties, things like that. But then people just wanted the fun and simplicity of what Doom did. They just want that again, and it makes I understand it, that just a lot of these people creating these games like Parodius and things like that, they've got to be people of like our age who grew up with Doom, and they want to love that style of game again, and they want people to experience that era of gaming. I mean, yeah, you can play Doom on pretty much anything, and that in itself is a testament to how good Doom was and how well the engine was made. It's ported onto everything. It's that age-old statement, can it play Doom? Most things can,
Yeah.
So for me, it's got to be Doom. There is one other, then it's Half-Life. Half-Life, I mean, I could go on a tangent with Half-Life. It's that was another one that I had pretty early on in my PC gaming sort of life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I remember it wouldn't run at first. I was having a lot of issues. You could run it with software rendering, but that's when my mum went and bought a 3DFX card, a Voodoo 3. Still got that boxed, actually.
Nice.
And yeah. So, and then that's where 3D gaming got bigger and more important in my life. And yeah, Half-Life was a massive thing because it wasn't just an FPS. There was actually a story there. There was a world to explore. Yeah. So Half-Life and definitely Doom for me.
I think like with Half-Life, it was a special game, and I think it was like one of the first games that I'd played that had that kind of intro to a game. The credits were playing over this intro, and it was taking its time to get you to where you were going, and like you were going through all the departments and all this and that, and like I just never experienced anything like that in a video game before. So it's definitely up there for that alone, especially everything else that it did.
Yeah.
It did for the gaming world. And I guess a lot of people would say that Half-Life 2 is a more influential game in the video gaming world, but I still think Half-Life has definitely got a case.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, actually, before I even had Half-Life, it was Half-Life Uplink, which essentially was the small scenario that lasts about half an hour or whatever. You can play through it. It came as a cover disc, I believe it was, the way I played it anyway, with PC Gamer, I think it was. That was I was kind of like, what is Half-Life? Half-Life Uplink. And it was kind of, you had a taster of what that world was. So then obviously as soon as Half-Life actually had got released, and then your opposing force, your blue shift, all of that, it just went on from there. But what a cracking game that is, Half-Life.
So for me, it's not a case of how large the game is. My favourite game of all time is an arcade game, is an on-the-rail shooter, is The House of the Dead. I had it I've still got it, the big box PC version. So I never owned a Saturn, so I didn't experience it on the Saturn. I played it to death, so to speak, in the arcades. And when it came out on the PC, I was like, right, my Pentium 166 MMX utilized the native software rendering, and then upgraded it to a direct 3D as well. But using the mouse for the shooting was incredible. It just made it feel great. You know, yes, it's not a light gun. I also used a keyboard to play an on-the-rail shooter as well. So it's you know, not many people would say that as being their favourite game. I just loved the box art. I loved the story about how to, you know, there's a mansion that's run by Dr. Curian, and there's zombies or the undead, whatever they're called, and your two agents having to clear this house out and stop this mansion and stop the dead just walking the streets. And then sadly that series is kind of ending now. I mean, there's not really that much of it. They did try to remake it on the Switch and the Xbox 360 and not 360, Xbox One and other platforms, but it just wasn't the same. But that one for me, soundtrack, I can just listen to the House of the Dead. I know it's a bit morbid. The House of the Dead soundtrack all day while I'm at work. I just love it. And then another arcade game, I know you've mentioned two each, but it has to be because it holds so many good childhood memories growing up. So in the early 90s, late 80s, it's WWF WrestleFest, from the days of when I used to go with my family to holiday parks. So both linear games, but it's just so bright and colourful with the WrestleFest, and those guys were on the screen while I was watching them on TV, and the characters on the arcade screen looked exactly the same as they did, very cartoony. So it's not a case of how great the games are, it's just how they hold in, you know, fondness for me. And those two are my best games of all time. Totally different, two arcade games, but still hold a great place in my heart.
Yeah, I love the House of the Dead. It's such a great game, and I do remember, like, it gave me a couple of jump scares, I'm sure, while playing it at some point. But how are you at the typing of the dead?
Well, being a trained touch typer, because I'm actually sitting in a room now in the dark, and I used to play Typing of the Dead in the dark anyway, and that's how it taught me how to type better. So,
Okay.
you know, having to quickly type before this weird zombie arrives up to you, to type in words like watering can or spilt cream or something, or cheesecake before that zombie gets there. It's I'm quite good at it. I've got it on the Dreamcast and I've got it on the PC as well. Another big box version on the PC. Yeah, awesome game. And that was based on, it's odd because that was based on the House of the Dead 2, but it was called Typing of the Dead 1. So there's a Typing of the Dead 2 which is based on House of the Dead 3. So it's all very off. So but yeah, Typing of the Dead, House of the Dead 2 is amazing. I won't tell you the story about me being in House of the Dead 2. That's for another stream, I guess.
But it's so quintessential Sega, especially of that time, just to make this Typing of the Dead kind of game, and they're all running about with their keyboards attached to their neck, hanging from their necks, and
that's right,
things like that. And it's just amazing. It's just quality.
Yeah, it's awesome. And like the Dreamcast with the big battery pack,
That's
yeah. So it's like a Game Gear. It's like carrying a Game Gear around.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. Been very kind with your time, and it's been a real pleasure having you here. You know, we hope that the Knots VGE in July is a very successful and show for you guys. So thank you so much for coming. It's been great. Do you want to just let the listeners know where they can find you on the old socials?
Yeah. So if you literally just search Knots VGE. Or, to be fair, even just on Google, if you type Knots VGE or Nottingham Video Games Expo, you should be able to find us absolutely everywhere. We're on Discord, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. We've got the website, knotsvge.com. So you can find us pretty much Instagram, we're on there as well. So if you want to find out anything, we're pretty active in the socials. And obviously, a lot of our... and obviously YouTube. We've got a Knots VGE YouTube channel as well now. So any guests that get announced across every part of our socials. So as they come, as they will, then just keep an eye out there and you'll find it all there.
Well, thank you to the listeners for joining us, and that's all we've got for this time. A massive thank you, as always, for everyone joining us. And if you would like to donate to the show, then please visit our coffee page where you can show your support, starting from just £1. You can find a link in the show description or on our website. And if that's not right for you right now, then you can also support us by giving us a review or rating on your platform of choice, or share our social posts, please. And if you are listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and the bell so you never miss an episode. Check out our website where we have articles, game reviews, our entire back catalogue of episodes, and much more at thewolfiepod.com. Chaps, it's time to say goodbye.
Oh,
Thank you very much for having us, and and all the listeners out there. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed it, and it's been a real pleasure to be here.
absolutely. Yeah, I mirror exactly what James just said. It's been an honour to be on here. And yeah, it's been great fun. So thank you very much for having us.
My name has been Jason, and you've been listening to What's Wrong with Wolfie, a retro podcast to the max. We'll catch you guys next time.
What's wrong with Wolfie? I can hear him barking.